Thanks, I'm excited to participate in this class. So, we all get that demos are powerful. We've seen Steve Jobs memorize live audiences and the media with his new product demonstrations. We've seen the Will It Blend videos go viral. Thousands, even millions of people watching these things. And a product demonstration is powerful because it's a vicarious experience of the product. You can see someone using it, imagine yourself using it, and really understand how it would be useful to you. But let's think about it. Instructional videos, shouldn't tutorials and instructional videos be buried in a help file or maybe behind a tech support login? No way. I'm going to argue that tutorials and instructional videos are marketing tools too. If demos are all about answering the question, can it do what you say it does? Tutorials help answer the question, can I make it do what you say it does? It's a key distinction there. Tutorials help you make the sale by building confidence. They help people move along this curve made popular by the folks at Creating Passionate Users a number of years ago. They designed this graph to show kind of where you want to get people from what they call the suck threshold, which is anytime you start using a new tool or product, usually you start out not being that good at it. And our job as marketers, one of our jobs, is to move people along this curve so that they can cross the passion threshold and become competent enough at using the product to where they will evangelize for it and generate great word of mouth to attract other users for it. And until people are confident and successful users, they can't really evangelize for you to bring other people to your doorstep. Also, think about this. You have a lot of knowledge locked up in your organization, and tutorials that you put together on topics that may not even be directly related to your product can also earn you free traffic and help build your reputation online. Never a wasted effort. I like to think of the screencasting journey as having three distinct phases. First is the Ralph Macchio phase. This is just getting the basics down. Trying to make one successful video, getting it done. You'll learn a lot through doing that. And for some people, they're fine existing at this stage and it does exactly what they need. Next, you move on to the Bruce Lee stage of the journey, and that is to add some polish, do a little bit of editing, kind of upgrade the look and feel. You need a little bit higher skill set and some better equipment. Finally, there's the Chuck Norris stage. Okay, stop me if you've heard this one. Chuck Norris doesn't call the wrong number, you answer the wrong phone. Or if at first you don't succeed, you're not Chuck Norris. For the rest of us mere mortals, we aim at kind of developing skills over time, and you'll get there eventually, but this has to do with having even better equipment, really high production values, and then doing some kind of artistic things to experiment and see where you can take the art of screencasting. But we'll start with the basics. Assuming that you've got a computer and a microphone, you can actually do your first screencast without spending a dime. You can download a free trial of commercial software, use it free for 30 days. There's freeware out there that you can just use. It's usually limited. For example, Jing, which is one of my company's products, has no editing built in. But for your Ralph Macchio, level of screencast, that might be sufficient. And there's also some open source or free options out there as well. Next, you just have to decide what to record. What is it that you're going to put on screen? The interesting thing about these screen recording software packages is that it makes your computer monitor kind of like a stage. Anything that you put up there, you can capture along with your audio narration and make into a video. So is it that you're going to show someone how to use an application? You're going to use navigating a website to get your point across? Maybe you put together a PowerPoint or a keynote presentation and you step through it, kind of like what I'm doing with you right now. The point is, anything that you can put on the screen, you can capture and use that to help tell your story or teach what you want people to learn. As you're preparing your visuals, you also want to put together some brief notes or bullets that just kind of walk you through, are you going to demonstrate something step by step by step? Do you have a couple of points you want to make and then do a little demo? Just thinking through your content and having a mental preparation. If you're using something like a web browser, you may want to set up your tabs in the order that you want to proceed through so it's a little smoother. If you're demoing an application, you might want to set up a fake account or something so that it looks a little more realistic and you don't have to spend a lot of time typing into fields just to do the basic setup that isn't what you're trying to demonstrate. The main things you want to avoid or watch out for at this stage are putting yourself in a situation where you're going to have terrible audio. And that just means audio that's, there's a buzz that just makes it just painful to listen to, or the audio levels are too low for somebody to hear. Don't worry about perfect quality right now. Just make sure that people can actually hear what you're saying and not be completely turned off by it. Second, watch out for things that are going to pop up on your screen, little email notifications. Also think about your desktop icons. Do you have a lot of clutter? Some things that you could probably just clean up. If you right-click the desktop on Windows, there's an option to hide your icons. That may be helpful just to sort of do an instant cleanup without having to actually move anything around. And finally, keep it short and keep it moving. You probably want to do a dry run of your content once just to make sure that you can deliver it smoothly and that it's not a slow, painful experience like watching paint dry. And now you're ready to record. Just fire up your software for screen recording, talk into the mic, click through whatever content you have prepared, and just try to imagine somebody's watching over your shoulder and you're just explaining stuff to them. Be real human, real relaxed. You can, here's a tip, you can use your pause key to just kind of pause, collect your thoughts, and then unpause to continue. And that's a great way to do that without having to edit anything later. Be charming, acknowledge your mistakes as you go, because remember, you're not going to edit this. This is sort of like writing your first novel. There's no editing, just get it out there on paper, and whatever you come up with is going to be great. Things to watch out for at this stage. We all say it more than you think you do, but you'll really realize how often you say it when you listen back to your recording later, so try to avoid it. Mouse speed. You feel like you're moving your mouse at a super slow pace, but when you're watching it back later, it's going to seem a lot faster, and particularly if somebody is watching it who doesn't know the application that you're demoing or whatever you're teaching them. So just try to move the mouse even more slowly than you think you should. And beware the black hole of editing. You didn't plan to do a high-end polished production. So if you try to turn it into one after it's already recorded, it's just going to eat up a ton of time. Instead, see if you can be content with this as your first crack, your Ralph Macchio screencast, and just get it done. And now it's time to share your video with someone else. If you're kind of wanting to still take it slow, go ahead and post it up to screencast.com. If you used Camtasia or Jing to create your video, there's built-in free hosting there, and it's completely private. And so you can just share a link to somebody and kind of share it, with whoever your trusted circle is to get feedback. Also, it doesn't mess around with the quality of your video, so screencasts are really finicky in terms of if you compress it down, sometimes the text will become harder to read. So you get a really nice view of what it looks like without messing with it. If you're ready to post it to the world and you're happy with what you've created, go ahead and put it on YouTube, and it'll be discoverable, and you can, get more eyeballs on it. And for a lot of people, this stage is where you kind of do a gut check and say, who's my audience? What's the context that I'm working in? How much level of effort do I really need for this kind of, this kind of video? If a short, simple, off-the-cuff, no editing kind of a production is good, if you're comfortable delivering information fluidly and you don't need a lot of rehearsal or editing, this may be the final stage of screencasting for you, and that's great. It's all about achieving the right balance between effort and value. For everyone else, keep listening. We'll take it to the next level, but it's still important to kind of go through these steps, have the experience of making a really simple, basic screencast, because you learn a lot, and those experiences are going to inform you as you go to the next level. Let's take a look at a Ralph Macchio style example of a screencast. This one was created by an SEO firm. They've been talking about how they could use screencasts as a quick, easy way to train clients and hopefully have the clients actually implement some of the recommendations that they pay this SEO firm a lot of money to make. So this screencast was created, the author said it took about 10 minutes of work using Camtasia for Mac. He converted a written guide into video format. Take a look, see what you think.
This video explains how to use the updated SEOmoz SERPs analysis tool. First of all, go to seomoz.org/keyword-difficulty. Enter your search term or phrase in the box. Choose your search engine and click Run Report. Once the report is generated, scroll down and click Run Full Report. you can see all of your reports within the Recent Report tabs. Click here to see all of your recent requests. Within 24 hours, your report should have changed from a new report in progress to a completed report, which has a link labelled Last Report. Click on this to receive the full data. When you scroll down, you can see the updated area, which includes social signals. The checks here indicate the site or page with the highest score in that metric. You can export the content to CSV using the button above.
Still with me? Great. Let's talk about the Bruce Lee level of screencasting. At this point, you've used up your 30-day trial, and it's time to pony up and buy commercial-grade software. You're going to use it. You're going to appreciate it. Yes, I'm biased, but it is true. Also think about your audio gear. The next step up is to get something that's a USB microphone. Different people have different experiences with the hardware. Here I've pictured a few of the recommended microphones that we often find work really well for this kind of work. But the key is that it hooks into your computer, not through the little 1/8 inch headphone looking jack, but through USB. There's less line noise, so you get a lot better sound right out of the box, no matter what mic it is. You could even consider upgrading your audio environment. Some people at the really basic level will try covering their head in a blanket when they're recording, say in a hotel room where there's a little bit of noise. But one step up from that is to get a booth, a little portable booth like this. If you Google it, Harlan Hogan Portabooth, you'll find it online. It's not too expensive. You can even make one from parts that are available through the web if you want to go that route, if you're feeling a little crafty. And you probably want to download the free audio editing software called Audacity, and you'll see why as we get into the details of the production workflow. At the Bruce Lee stage of screencasting, you're going to put a little more effort into the pre-planning before you ever hit record. So, start thinking about structure. Step away from your computer, put down the pen, put down the keyboard, and just really spend some time thinking about what's the most effective structure for the information that you're going to convey. If it's a demo, is it a problem-solution format demo? If it's an instructional video, do you take what I like to think of as the cake then batter approach? So just like a cooking show, you show the final product of what you're going to make, and then you show the steps of how to get there. Just think about structure, and as you're doing that, also think about transitions. How are you going to move from one section to another smoothly so that there's a nice flow in your content? And, bottom line, just make sure there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. That will help people move through it and stay focused and engaged and not kind of tune out. I like to do the initial brainstorming using sticky notes because that way you can rearrange kind of bits or pieces of information and get the right sequence that's going to work best for you. But then you probably want to move on to a more formal storyboard. And I will include a sample document in the handout so that you can download it and use one like what I'm showing here. It's 2 columns, really simple, goes back to the television production days. In the left column, it's what you see, and in the right column, it's what you hear. A storyboard like this is absolutely essential if you're working with a team because you have to kind of relate the vision from one person to another, and there's really no other way to make sure that what you have in your head is what is actually produced without a storyboard like this that kind of describes all the different elements that you see here and the action as it unfolds. Also, what this is going to help you do is identify dead spots. So if you have a lot of copy in the right-hand column, a lot of words, and you don't have much going on in the left-hand column, well, attention's going to wander. People are going to end up clicking away to see the latest dancing cat video. Another thing to consider during pre-production is what kinds of visual content could you bring into your screencast. Maybe there's a video clip that you've recorded previously that you've got on file. Maybe you've got some photos that you've taken of your travels or of customers or something around your office that could either illustrate a point or help provide some real-life context. And also maybe a branded title slide at the beginning or the end, something to kind of give this a sense of being part of your brand. The pitfalls you're looking to avoid here are not having enough visuals to fill dead air space, staying on the same slide too long or the same visual too long, people get bored, tune out, and the 30-second drop-off. People tend to click away from a video. It's make or break in those first few seconds. So what can you do to really get the audience invested? Make sure that they understand that you're going to deliver value and that they want to keep watching all the way to the end. Pay a lot of attention to those first 30 seconds. And a bonus tip, once you've got your storyboard together, read it aloud. There's really nothing better than hearing you talk all the way through it. If it bores you, it's going to bore the viewer. Watch out for the buzzwords and the BS, the hype. Just scale back on that. Be real conversational and human and personal. And as a general rule, always prefer the concrete over the abstract. So if you're trying to illustrate something, give one concrete example is better than making some generalized statement that's just going to be like, yawn. Now you're ready for the production phase. The recommended workflow for a Bruce Lee level of screencast is to record the audio first. So you're going to do that using Audacity and your script or storyboard, reading through it. Try to do it in one take if you can, or you can pause, start, and stop. And then you can also use Audacity to edit out mistakes, long pauses, or even record a little piece of audio to patch over a mistake. And then on to screen capture. Play back the audio that you recorded in the previous step. You can save it out as a WMA file or an MP3, and then just play it in Windows Media Player on your other screen, preferably, or minimized in your system tray. While that's playing back, you're recording the action on screen and trying to time things so that they line up well. It's actually a lot easier to do this than the other way around, trust me. And then you put it all together in your screencast software. So you bring in the visuals on the video track, you bring in the audio on the audio track, and here's where you can extend frames. You can take one frame of the screen content, and if there is no motion, you can just extend that out to fill a little bit of extra space if you need to. You can cut out mistakes, and you can even get really clever and use a screenshot or record a new little bit of screen content to patch over a mistake in the visuals. Some of the features you'll want to explore in your screencasting software are zoom and pan, which lets you get in a lot closer so that the viewer can see what's on screen. If you have text on screen and you're not zoomed in, it's almost impossible for them to read it. Use that liberally. Also transitions, they're great for moving between pieces of content, and they can also hide a disconnect. So something that is not a very smooth transition between two visuals, you can kind of patch that over with a nice fade transition, keep it simple. And call-outs, great for drawing attention or making a point, focusing attention on a certain part of the screen. And finally, there are some really interesting things you can do, like add a flash hotspot that will direct the viewer to additional information, or let them click and follow your call to action so that you can move them further down the marketing funnel. One caveat about hotspots is that they are only supported on screencast.com. YouTube has its own clickable areas, but they can't take you to a link outside of YouTube. That said, if you want a lot of people to watch your video, put it on YouTube, and that will help make it more discoverable and visible on what is the world's #2 search engine. Other presenters are going to cover this in more depth in terms of optimizing your video to be SEO optimized for discoverability. But one tip I'll pass along from Butterscotch.com's Andy Walker, they found great success with titling their videos, "How to blank with blank." So when that video does come up in the search results, it looks like just the video that the person is looking for if it's kind of a tutorial in nature. One of the things that YouTube does well is give you some great analytics for your videos. This one is the audience attention graph, also known as hotspots, not to be confused with the clickable hotspots that I talked about before. This usually starts to accumulate after you get at least, the documentation says more than 300 views of your video, but in actuality, you probably won't see this show up until 1,000 or more views of the video. And what it's doing is tracking the viewer's attention and actions that they take that are interpreted either as cold or hot. So cold actions are things like clicking away from your video, clicking to a different video, hitting the stop button, or skipping ahead. Hot actions are things like rewinding part to watch it again, or just continuing to watch and not tailing off. So this is comparing your video to others that are quote unquote like it. So obviously there's a little bit of a fudge factor there, And this is a fairly normal curve that you would see for an instructional video, where at the beginning people might not be in the right place and so might click away, and that's probably okay. But what you want to see is that the curve goes up the longer people watch. They're intrigued. There is a little drop down here partway into the video, so you might take a look at your content and say, what's going on at that point in the video that attention seems to wander. It's a great way to hone in on your content and what you can do to improve it. Of course, you want your content to be easy to find on your own web properties too. So be sure to embed it in the places that make sense on your website. Also, consider having something like a tips series on your blog. This is from MATLAB Central, and these are a series of tip videos that Doug Hall produces on a very regular basis. And there's a lot of energy around these because he's addressing topics that are really important to their customer base. Another way to ensure that your video reaches a lot of viewers is to distribute a link internally to your staff, like your sales and support team, for example. Shorten the link first using bit.ly or another shortener. Make a custom link that's easy to remember, easy for them to type into an email or even give a customer over the phone. Bitly will keep track of some basic click analytics so you can see how many people are clicking back through on that link and using the video. Where else can you use your video? How about email? Now, you can't attach a video to an email and you can't embed it, at least not reliably, so that it'll show up in most email clients. But what you can do is take a quick screenshot of one frame and look through your video to find the best, most interesting looking frame. Take a screenshot of that. Superimpose a play button of some kind. You can probably find one on the web and copy and paste that into the screenshot, and then put that into the newsletter and make it clickable so that when someone clicks through they get to your video. One of the things that we've found when using this tactic is that tips and tutorial videos are our top content in most of our emails that we send. Pitfalls to avoid here: posting videos without proper metadata, things like descriptive titles and accompanying text that make it friendly to search. You don't want to turn the file name into the title that's shown on the page. So just because you called your project My Product Demo, that's probably not the name that you want to give your video if you post it somewhere publicly. Instead, call it, what is my product, ? Or something along those lines to resonate with the potential viewer. And it's a mistake to think that just because content is free, it doesn't need promotion. Imagine that you're trying to sell this free video and give people reasons in the way you present it and the way you set it up, the little snippet that you give to introduce it. All of those things should tease people and make them want to watch it. I want to show you a Bruce-style product demo that I worked on. We created this for and using Camtasia for Mac. It's one of TechSmith's products. And the things I want you to focus in on are the cake then batter structure to this and how it mixes camera video and screen video. Some of the production elements and editing techniques may seem a little more Chuck Norris, and we'll get there in the next section.
Hi, I'm Conan, one of the TechSmith trainers. Camtasia for Mac is screencasting software for people who want to make great-looking videos without a ton of effort. Use it to capture what you see on your Mac, turn it into a movie, and share it with people. You could show off a website that's simply fun to play around with, like Tone Matrix. You could share knowledge about a subject, like how to design your dream kitchen in 5 easy steps. A quick, clear video tutorial keeps people glued to the screen and coming back for more. You could even record a live lecture, complete with slides, simulations, and audio for viewers to download to their iPhones. Being able to see and replay the live experience helps people master new information quickly. And screencasts are also a powerful sales tool. By showing your product in action, people can clearly see its value. So, let's go behind the scenes and see how we assembled and produced the video you just watched using Camtasia for Mac. You'll be amazed at how Camtasia makes it so easy to create a video that looks this good.
We'll start with recording. Camtasia records not only everything you see and do on screen, it can simultaneously capture audio from your microphone, video from your iSight or DV camera, and any sound you hear coming through your speakers, making it easy to capture stuff like this that you want to let other people both see and hear. That's it for recording. Let's take a look at editing. The clip we just captured appears here in the media bin, alongside others I captured earlier in the same way, and files I imported, like the camera video. Now let's start putting all the pieces together, down here on the timeline. Assembling the clips is simply a matter of dragging them from the media bin to the timeline, sliding them into position, and making adjustments as needed. It's fast, efficient, and works like you'd expect it to. Once everything is in place, it's time to add some polish. Now, if I were creating a basic screencast for my blog, a standard picture-in-picture arrangement might be sufficient. Click, drag, done. But for a marketing video like this one, and to give you a small taste of what Camtasia for Mac can do, we wanted to step it up a notch. A few clicks to rearrange things on the canvas. A quick trip to the Properties panel to dial in some rotation. And a ready-made reflection filter from the Effects panel gives our video a high-end look without the need for additional editing software. To finish things out, we added a few simple fade transitions, repeated some of the steps you already saw, and produced out the video to share with you. Camtasia for Mac even makes the sharing easy too, whether it's posting directly to a video sharing site or to your own website in a Flash format viewable in any browser.
Of course, there's far more to Camtasia for Mac than we can show you in one brief demo. So, check out our other videos, download the software, and see for yourself how easy it can be to create remarkable screencast videos on a Mac.
Still with me? Let's look at the Chuck Norris level of video demos and tutorials. Here you want to upgrade your camera gear, get a nice webcam, one of these flip cams that like the ZI-8 from Kodak or its successor, which I believe is the PlaySport. You can also get a DV cam that shoots HD video. You might want to test it a little bit with your screencasting software to make sure that the files that it produces can easily be brought into your screencasting software so you don't have trouble down the road. You may find yourself needing a high-end video editing suite like Adobe Premiere Pro or After Effects, particularly if you want to do things like processing camera video, adding some, like motion effects or that kinds of things. Pretty high-level stuff. Most people don't need it, but just something to consider. If you do enough of this kind of work, you may want to have a dedicated recording space where you've deadened the walls and you can really control all of the environment so that you get consistently good audio every time you record. And then if you have to go in and patch things later, it doesn't sound like you're somewhere else in a different room. You can actually make a decent looking set for not too much money. Ours has this black cloth draped over some poles and clamp lights that have those compact fluorescents in them. There's a table that's draped with velvet cloth. Again, nothing super expensive. Probably the most expensive thing you see here would be this bank of LED lights that's facing away from the picture. That's super nice. They're cool because they're LEDs, but rather pricey. A Chuck Norris level video may have a more complex and sophisticated structure. This could take the form of a narrative structure. With a narrative, you follow a character or a series of events from point A to point B. Very specific things happen along the way. There might be some challenges that have to be overcome or some barriers that are conquered. This works particularly well for a product demo, as it paints your product or the users of your product as the hero in this little story. Also, it helps you ground your examples in concrete use cases instead of floating around in the abstract. A story by definition just draws viewers along. We want to see how it resolves, how the story ends. And I'll show you an example right now. This is a release video that I worked on for Snagit, one of our products. And what it does is introduce a set of new features that were part of a major release, but it introduces them in the context of how you might use them and get benefit from them.
How do I use all the new features in Snagit 9? Well, instead of just answering that, I'm going to show you how Snagit 9 saved my sanity on a very hectic day at my marketing firm. You know what it's like trying to tie up all the loose ends the day before leaving for vacation? Well, it was one of those days. Right away that morning, I realized there was no way I'd be able to finish booking the flight for my upcoming business trip. Our kind-hearted assistant, Julie, offered to finish the arrangements. I'd already run a bunch of searches and narrowed down the list of flights on these browser tabs. Snagit made it easy to just capture, 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 one after the other. All the screenshots showed up right here in this new capture tray. I added a couple of arrows to show my preferred flights. You know, these new menus were a bit of an adjustment, quite honestly, but now I love how my most used tools bubble to the top. Anyway, then I sent off the captures in an email. Thanks for bailing me out, Julie. Working with multiple captures like this would have been a real bummer with the old Snagit, but version 9 makes it painless.
You may also give some thought to how you want your voice to develop, how much personality to inject in your videos. And actually, I would err on the side of a little more than being corporate. So you can take this to the extreme and have a really quirky voice, dry, over the top. The reason this matters is because people care who they learn from. So if you have a choice between learning from this particular teacher or that one, you're going to choose the one that you enjoy learning from. And so it can be a way to build rapport with your audience. Of course, this works best if your personality is fundamentally something that people are attracted to, and you have a strong foundation to build on and develop from. I'll show you an example here from a guy I met recently who attended a screencast camp event here in mid-Michigan. His name is Dan Nunez. He teaches Photoshop to high school kids, and this is how he started out one of his tutorial videos. Obviously, know your audience. In this case, I think Dan Nunez nails it.
Hey everybody, DanNunez.com here. You might know me from the guy who just checked your Excel passes. Hope everybody had those. And good morning to you, third hour graphic design. I'm here to teach you a little bit about Photoshop, so if you can hear my voice, make sure you can see the screen. That way it'll be easier for me to blow your mind. Yeah, so how's that for a start?
In addition to structure, give a thought to how you can increase the variety of content types in your video. That could be something like camera video. We've talked a little bit about that already. It could be on a set that you build in your offices or on your, at your organization. Think about outdoor locations. If you can get a little bit of control over the environmental factors like lighting and noise, it can work really well to shoot outdoors, and it can be an interesting backdrop. What you want to avoid is the drab, gray office backdrop, unless that's what you're going for. You could also bring in some animation, so work with an outside designer or your internal designer to do some custom animation if that would help you tell the story better. A way to get animation kind of on the cheap is to use something like Prezi. It's an alternative to PowerPoint. It makes a little bit more visually stimulating presentation of your information because you can nest things on a zoomable canvas and kind of get in close and then see things in context by zooming back out. Here's a quick example. You could also upgrade from a static title slide to an animated branded bumper. Bumper is just a fancy word for a little pre-roll video that you attach to the beginning of all the videos in your series, and it kind of keeps the same look and feel for all of them and introduces your brand. And they could be at the beginning, the end, or both. Rules of thumb: keep it really short. But it might be something to spend a little bit of money to have developed professionally because you can use it over and over again in all your videos. Here's an example of that. You could consider working with professional voice talent to do your voiceover. This gives you a couple of benefits. One, if you hate your voice, you don't have to hear it. Two, you don't really have to worry about any of the gear for recording great audio because the professional who records it obviously will have all of that stuff. The downside may be if you can't get this person to do your videos in the future and you started a series and they're not available later, you might have a discontinuity there. Sites like voices.com make this really easy. I posted a script, it was about 3 minutes long. I had over 100 people bid to take this job, and many of them recorded a sample of my script, a custom sample for me so I could hear exactly how it would sound, and I could get it done for under $200 and have really top-notch quality. This may be a lot cheaper and easier than you think it is. During production, you also may want to take advantage of a few features of your video editing software. One of them is clip speed. What this lets you do is compress time by skipping past the tedious parts like watching someone fill in a form. No one needs to see that happen in real time, so you can speed it up to the point where it's painless. Another feature you could experiment with is tilt. This allows you to bring part of the screen close to the viewer, gives kind of a 3D effect, makes the viewing experience a little more dynamic because there's some motion happening instead of just having a static window that you're looking at the whole time. And when used sparingly, it can really add a nice visual touch. When you go overboard with it, you're likely to make people seasick. Consider adding captions to your video. This isn't just about making your content more accessible for hearing impaired viewers, though that's a fantastic idea. It also makes it more available to non-native speakers who can follow along a lot more easily when they see the words on the screen. And also it supports people in environments where listening to the audio might not be possible. They don't have speakers or access to headphones. A program like Camtasia makes this really easy with a built-in caption editor, and on Windows it'll even take a crack at automatically parsing the audio and turning it into text captions for you. Usually you have to correct it a bit. If you want to go all Chuck Norris on distribution, consider something like TubeMogul. This lets you post your video once and have it get pushed out to a whole bunch of different video hosting sites to extend the reach and the number of people that'll find your content. Also, do a little bit of keyword research. Do this early on as you're preparing your topics, and then also as you're distributing it in choosing titles, keywords, and descriptions. What you're aiming to do here is make sure that your content shows up for terms that people are actually searching for. One easy way to do this is pull up YouTube and just start typing part of a word, and the auto suggest will drop down and give you an idea of what popular searches are related to that keyword that you're starting to type. You could also use YouTube's own advertising keyword research tool, even if you're not an advertiser, to do some research on which keywords have the most traffic and branch out to a number of keywords that you might not have thought of on your own. You've probably heard a lot about QR codes. Think about all the print material that you send out and where would it make sense to have a QR code on that print material or even physical objects that you might ship. The QR code can then link back to a tutorial video or demo video, giving mobile users a unique experience of your content at a certain point in time when they're interacting with a physical object. And I know I said earlier that it's impractical to attach a video to an email or embed it for viewing, but here's a little exception, and that is you can use an animated GIF. I created this one for a campaign where we're reaching out to our existing users with a new feature. And so having that motion at the top of the email and showing just a real tease of what this new feature was about was a way to catch their eye and hopefully draw them into the remainder of the email. I used Camtasia to make the animated GIF, and it renders in most email clients with the exception being Outlook. Outlook users just see the first frame of the GIF, and I made sure that delivered a solid experience too. At the Bruce Lee level, we talked about distributing your content on your website and blog. Chuck Norris takes it to social. So if you're looking to give people a reason to follow you on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, use these videos as an asset to add value to that stream. Offer people a regular drip feed of tutorials and tip videos, and you can even recycle through these over time if you have enough variety of content built up. It's also really handy to be able to respond to someone who asks for help on Twitter or Facebook by sending them a link to an existing video that you created earlier. And with a quick and dirty screencasting tool like Jing that we discussed earlier, it's actually efficient just to respond to someone with a custom video that shows exactly what they need to do. And then, pro tip here, you can add that back into your drip feed so that you can amplify the impact of that tip from one person to all of your following. If your customers are anything like ours, they're going to go nuts over this level of service and support, which goes all the way back to the beginning of how we are setting out to create not just users, but passionate users who evangelize and advocate for the product. To recap, if I can leave you with one thing, it's this. Get started today. Do your first Ralph Macchio video tutorial or demo. You don't have to spend a dime to record it, and it'll probably take you an hour. In the handout, I've provided links to resources that will help you get started quickly. I hope I've also given you a path to proceed along so that you can develop more sophisticated gear, content, workflows, and production efforts. But remember, the goal always stays the same. It's to instill your customers with the confidence that they can do it, and then a clear step-by-step path to becoming a successful user of your product or your service, and then what's more, an enthusiastic advocate for your brand. So thanks for listening today. I'm really eager to hear any questions that you have now, and if you think of something later, here's how to get a hold of me.